the silent despair. The world of Carrion was once full of light. Children played in the crystal fields, towers reached high into the clouds, and trade ships came and went every day. But now, silence ruled the land. The colony lay in ruins. The streets were broken, the towers burned, and the skies were never safe. Above, enemy ships circled like wolves waiting to strike. The people of Carrion, once proud, once free, now hid among shattered walls and underground tunnels. Every day, fewer survived. The enemy fleet did not attack at once. No, they enjoyed the slow death. They cut off supplies, blocked every escape, and hunted anyone who dared step outside the ruins. The survivors lived in fear. At night, they listened to the sound of enemy engines passing overhead, searching for movement. During the day, they whispered among themselves, "No one will come. We are alone." The Council of Elders met in secret chambers. Their voices were low, but the despair in them was clear. "We cannot hold much longer," said one. "Our food is almost gone," said another. "And no allies remain," whispered the oldest. The youngest elder slammed his hand on the table. "Then we must send for help." "Help from whom?" came the bitter reply. "Every star, every system has abandoned us. Who will risk their lives for us now?" A silence followed. It was the kind of silence that cut deeper than any blade, the silence of hopelessness. But outside the council chamber, in the ruins of the old city, a boy listened. His name was Terran. He was no warrior, no leader, just a child who had lost his family to the first wave of attacks. He spent his nights exploring the ruins, chasing shadows, and listening for sounds others ignored. One night, as the cold wind howled through broken walls, Terran heard something strange, a faint rhythm, a repeating signal, like a voice trapped in static. He froze. At first, he thought it was just the enemy's machines, but no, it was different. Weak, broken, but clear enough to notice. The sound pulsed through a ruined radio tower, long dead but somehow alive again. Terran pressed his ear close. The signal carried one word, repeating over and over. Earth, Earth, Earth. His heart raced. Earth. The word was old, almost forgotten. In the stories told to children, Earth was a myth, a place that existed long before their time. A world of warriors and dreamers who once promised to protect those who called for aid. But no one had seen humans for generations. Most believed they had vanished, destroyed in wars long ago. Still, the signal did not stop. Earth, Earth. The next morning, Terran rushed to tell the others. The people laughed. A child's dream. A broken machine. Earth is a legend, nothing more. But one elder, quiet and secretive, pulled Terran aside. Her name was Illyra. Her eyes were sharp, old, but filled with memory. She asked, softly, "You heard the word yourself?" "Yes." Terran nodded. It said Earth, again and again. Illyra closed her eyes. She remembered an old promise, something most had forgotten. Long ago, when the first colonies spread across the stars, the humans had sworn to defend any who asked. They built a fleet unlike any other, a shield for the weak. But centuries passed, and the shield was never seen again. People began to doubt. They called it a lie, a fairy tale. But now the signal had returned. That night, Illyra gathered the council. Many argued against her. "It is a trap," they said. "The enemy plays with us." Others sneered. "Humans are dust. We cannot waste hope on ghosts." But Illyra's voice cut through them. "Listen to me. If the signal is real, then the humans may still live. And if they live, then we must call them. For we have no one else." The room fell quiet. Finally, the youngest elder spoke. "Even if they exist, even if they hear, would they come for us? Why would humans save a forgotten world?" No one answered. The question hung heavy, like smoke filling the chamber. Meanwhile, in the ruins, Saren kept listening. Each night the signal grew a little stronger. He wrote the strange patterns in the dirt, trying to understand. And then, something changed. The rhythm broke. The static sharpened. The voice grew louder, clearer. It was no longer just a word. Now it carried numbers, coordinates, a message hidden in the sound. And then, silence. The boy waited. His heart pounded. But the radio tower was quiet again, dead as stone. He thought the signal was gone forever, but just before dawn it returned, different this time. Not endless, not repeating, but timed. It ticked like a clock, a countdown, the forgotten promise. The ruins of Carrion were cold, but the boy Saren felt heat in his chest. He could not forget. The signal. The word Earth still echoed in his mind. Each night he returned to the broken radio tower, waiting, listening. The static whispered like ghosts, and then the countdown ticked again. The numbers dropped lower each night. No one knew what it meant. No one but Saren cared to wonder. He told the people, but most only laughed. "You chase shadows," they said. "Better to find food than fairy tales," others told him. But Elira, the old elder, did not laugh. She sat with him by the broken tower, her wrinkled hands steady, her eyes sharp as ever. She listened to the faint voice with him. The word Earth returned, mixed with the countdown and the strange coordinates. At last, she spoke. "It is a call, or an answer. Long ago your grandparents heard the promise. Humanity made it before they vanished. They said, 'If you ever need us, call, and we will come.'" Saren's eyes grew wide. "So it's real? The humans will come?" Elira's voice was heavy. "If they still live, if they still remember." The boy's heart swelled with hope. But hope was dangerous in Carrion. Hope could kill faster than hunger. The enemy was growing restless. Their warships circled closer to the planet each day. Patrols combed the ruins. Survivors whispered that the enemy commander had grown tired of waiting. Soon, he would finish the job and wipe Carrion from the stars. One night, while Saren studied the numbers scratched in the dirt, he heard footsteps. He looked up to see 3 enemy soldiers moving through the rubble. Their weapons glowed red in the dark. Saren froze. His heart pounded so loud he feared they would hear it. The soldiers paused at the tower. One placed a device against the broken wall, a scanner, a hunter's tool. Saren held his breath. The device buzzed, then stopped. The soldier cursed. "Strange signals," he muttered. "But weak. Move on." The 3 soldiers left, shadows, vanishing into the night. Only then did Saren breathe again. His hands shook as he traced the numbers once more. He knew now. The enemy had noticed. If the countdown was real, they would not let it finish. Back in the council chamber, Elira argued, with the elders again. "The humans left us," one said. "Why trust them now?" "Because they promised," Elira replied. "A dead promise," another hissed. "What if it is the enemy? What if they are tricking us?" Elira leaned forward. Her voice was soft but filled with fire. "And if it is not a trick, if it is the humans, then this may be our only chance." The council fell into bitter silence. Saren spoke up, surprising them all. "I heard the soldiers. They know about the signal. If we do nothing, the enemy will destroy it." The room stirred. Some glared at the boy. Others lowered their heads. Elira stood beside him. "We must send the coordinates out," she declared. "Not only from this tower, but far, across the stars. Let the humans hear us." The youngest elder shook his head. "If they exist, they may not care. Why would humans risk their fleet for a dying world?" No one answered. That night, Saren and a group of brave survivors worked with Elira. They carried pieces of broken machines into the ruins, old transmitters, half-dead satellites, scraps of ancient tech. Piece by piece, they built something fragile, but powerful enough to scream into the void. The countdown ticked lower. The people watched with trembling hearts. Saren's small hands moved quickly, guided by Elira's steady voice. "Faster," she urged. "The enemy will come." And they did. The sky lit up with search beams. Enemy patrols swept through the ruins, weapons ready. The survivors scrambled to finish the device. One soldier spotted them. A red beam fired, striking the wall near Saren. Dust filled his lungs as he coughed and stumbled. Elira pulled him back. "Protect the boy," she shouted. The survivors fought with whatever they had. Broken rifles, sharp blades, even stones. But against armored soldiers, they stood little chance. Saren crawled toward the half-finished transmitter. He slammed his hand on the switch. Sparks flew. The machine roared to life. The signal burst outward, strong, clear, desperate. Coordinates, countdown, and the word that echoed across stars. Earth. The enemy soldiers panicked. "They've sent it," one shouted. "Destroy it now." Explosions shook the ruins. The transmitter cracked, burning, but the signal was already gone, flying through the void, unstoppable. Silence followed. Smoke curled through the broken stones. Survivors lay scattered, some fallen, others wounded. Saren coughed in the dust. His chest ached, but he smiled. "We sent it," he whispered. Elira knelt beside him, blood on her arm, but her eyes bright. "Yes, child. Now we wait." Above the planet, the enemy commander stared at the reports, his face twisted in anger. "So, they dared to call the humans." He slammed his fist on the console. "Fools, no one is coming. The humans are gone, and even if they live, they will not reach you in time." But his voice shook, just slightly, for he too had heard the stories. He too remembered the old promise. In the ruins of Carrion, the survivors looked to the stars. The countdown continued, ticking ever lower. No one knew what would happen when it reached zero. Would the humans come, or had they trusted ghosts? Saren sat by the broken tower staring at the night sky. His voice was soft but steady. "They will come. I know they will." And far away, beyond the reach of the enemy, something stirred in the dark between stars. And the shadows close. The signal had gone out. It could not be taken back. Somewhere in the dark, across endless stars, the word Earth now traveled like a spark in the night. But the survivors of Carrion did not cheer. They knew what would come next. The enemy had heard it too. The enemy's reaction. In orbit, the enemy commander stared at the report with burning eyes. His fleet was vast, his grip on Carrion tight. Yet for the first time, unease spread through him. He growled at his officers. "Find the source. Crush it. If they called the humans, we end this before they arrive." His words spread like fire through the enemy ranks. Patrols doubled. Warships swept lower over the planet. Soldiers poured into the ruins, their scanners searching for any trace of the transmission. The shadows of death grew thicker each hour, the survivors' fear. In the tunnels beneath the ruins, the people of Carrion gathered. Fear was everywhere. "They will kill us all for sending that signal," one whispered. "Maybe they already destroyed it," another said. "And if humans never come?" Elira raised her hand to calm them. Her voice, though soft, carried strength. "The signal is gone. It cannot be stopped. Now we must endure until help arrives or until we fall." Her words did not erase their fear, but they gave the survivors something else. A thin thread of courage. Beside her, Saren listened to the countdown still ticking in his head. Each number that fell felt like a heartbeat, closer and closer to something unknown. A dangerous mission, but survival would not be easy. The enemy was already closing in. Soon they would discover the tunnels. Elira gathered a small group. Saren stood among them, though many argued he was too young. "He found the signal," Elira said firmly. "He knows its voice better than anyone. He stays. The mission was simple, yet deadly. Move the last fragments of the transmission equipment deeper underground, so the enemy could not destroy the evidence. They carried rusted machines on their backs through cracks in the earth. Every sound felt too loud, every step too slow. Above them, enemy searchlights cut through the ruins like knives. Saren clutched a small piece of the radio tower, its circuits glowing faintly. He felt its pulse, almost like it was alive. The hunt. Then came the sound they feared most. The heavy steps of armored soldiers echoing down into the tunnels. "Run," someone whispered. The survivors broke into a sprint. The tunnels twisted and shook with the stomping boots behind them. Red beams cut through the dark, striking walls and scattering stone. One man fell. Another cried out. But there was no time to stop. Saren ran with Elira's hand gripping his shoulder. The faint glow of the equipment in his arms lit the path ahead. At last they reached a sealed passage long forgotten. They crawled through cracks so small the enemy's armor could not follow. The soldiers' shouts grew distant, their beams fading behind. But Saren knew they were not safe. Not yet. The enemy's plan above. The enemy commander watched with cold rage. His patience was gone. They want to hide like rats? Fine. We will smoke them out. He ordered his fleet to prepare orbital strikes, not to destroy the planet yet, but to collapse the tunnels, crush the survivors, and bury any hope. They had. Dark clouds gathered as the warships positioned themselves. The ground shook. The survivors could feel it, like the planet itself warning them. A flicker of hope. Deep underground, Saren and Elira set up the broken devices once more. The glow returned. The countdown continued, steady, unstoppable. Elira placed her hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did well. Whatever happens now, the call has been made. The humans will hear it." "But will they come?" Saren whispered. Elira looked to the sky, or rather the layers of stone above them. Her voice was quiet but firm. "If they still walk among the stars, they will not abandon us." For a moment, the boy believed her. The strike, then the earth roared. The enemy fired. Explosions ripped through the ruins above, sending fire and dust into the sky. Tunnels collapsed, ceilings cracked, and screams echoed through the underground. The survivors scattered as stones rained down. Saren fell to his knees, shielding the glowing device. Elira pulled him up. "Hold it. Don't let it break." Walls split. Darkness swallowed light. And then, silence. The cliffhanger. When the dust cleared, half the tunnels were gone. Many survivors were trapped, cut off by stone. Saren and Elira stood in a small cavern, the device still glowing faintly in his hands. The countdown was close to its end, but the enemy had not finished. Far above, the commander gave a final order. "Ready the fortress, prepare to fire." The survivors could not see it, but in orbit a monstrous weapon awakened, one that could shatter the ground and erase all life. Saren looked at the flickering device, then to the sky he could not see. His voice was a whisper. "They're coming. They have to." And far above, space rippled, like something pressing against the fabric of the void. The first glimpse. The countdown ticked lower. Each beat echoed like thunder in Saren's mind. The device glowed faintly in his hands, even as dust from the collapsed tunnels clung to his skin. The survivors of Carrion huddled together in the dark cavern, faces pale, eyes hollow. They had lost so much, and the enemy above prepared to end them completely. No one spoke of hope anymore. Only the boy did. Saren whispered again and again, as if words could shape reality. "They will come. The humans will come." Some shook their heads. Others wept quietly. Elira, wounded but unbroken, placed her hand on the boy's shoulder. "Hold on to that hope, child, for we may not live to see it." The fortress awakens in orbit. The enemy commander prepared his greatest weapon. The fortress was enormous. Half machine, half moon. Its cannons could tear continents apart. Its core glowed red, charging with energy that could end Carrion in a single strike. His officers saluted. "The fortress is ready, Commander." He raised his hand. "End this. Let the survivors know despair before death. Fire on the ruins." The order was given. The sky burns. The ground shook as the fortress began to charge. Great cracks split the earth. The survivors clung to each other, listening to the growing hum from above. It was not the sound of life. It was the sound of final death. Saren closed his eyes. The countdown was seconds from 0. His lips trembled as he whispered the last number. And then, silence. The device flickered once, then went dark. The countdown had ended. Everyone stared. The cavern was filled only with the hum of the fortress, louder and louder, ready to fire. Nothing else happened. Some cried out in despair. "It was a lie. They are not coming. We are fools to believe." But before the fortress fired, something changed. The tear in space. The stars themselves seemed to shiver. High above, beyond the enemy fleet, the fabric of space rippled like water struck by a stone. The enemy commander froze. His eyes widened. What is that? The ripple grew. It spread into a circle, then tore open like a wound in reality. Darkness bled into light. From within the tear, something massive emerged. First came a shadow, then steel. A ship unlike any in the galaxy, its hull forged from human hands, its design both simple and terrifying. Its engines roared like a storm. On its side, letters glowed in ancient script. To the survivors below, the meaning was unknown. But to the enemy commander, it was a name from nightmares. He whispered it with shaking lips. Earth. The first. Message the human ship did not fire. It did not speak for a long moment. It simply stood there, a giant among stars blocking the fortress's line of sight to the planet. Then a voice filled every channel. Calm, cold, human. You are not alone. The survivors gasped. Elira's hand shook as she pressed it against her chest. Saren's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in his life, hope felt real. But the enemy only laughed. One ship? The commander sneered. They dare challenge. Us with one? He raised his hand. Destroy it. The first battle. The fortress unleashed its fury. A beam of pure energy tore through space, striking the human ship dead on. The explosion lit the sky. For a moment it seemed the humans had already been destroyed. The survivors wailed, their hope crushed as fast as it came. But when the light faded, the human ship still stood. Its shields glowed, battered but unbroken. Then its guns came alive. Blazing light streaked across the void. Human weapons tore through enemy cruisers like paper. Ships that had ruled Carrion for years now burned. In seconds, for the first time, the enemy screamed. The enemy's fear. The commander shouted, "Impossible! No shield can withstand the fortress." But even as he said it, more ripples appeared in space. The air tore again and again. From each wound, more ships emerged. Human destroyers, carriers, cruisers. An entire fleet rising from the shadows of forgotten time. The enemy officers stared in silence. Fear crawled across their faces. The commander's voice broke. The legends. They were true. The survivors' joy on Carrion's surface. The survivors flooded out of the tunnels. They stared at the sky, their ruined city lit by fire and hope. Elira fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. They came. By the stars, they truly came. Saren shouted with all his strength, his voice echoing through the ruins. The humans are here. For the first time in years, the people of Carrion cheered. Their cries rose like thunder, but above, the battle was only beginning. The cliffhanger, the human fleet formed a wall around Carrion, protecting the broken planet. Their guns blazed, driving back the enemy, yet the fortress still glowed. Its power built for another strike, stronger than the last. The commander gave his final order. Fire everything. Break the humans. Break them now. The survivors looked up in terror. The humans stood firm, and in that moment, Saren whispered the words that carried through the silence of space. They thought no one would come. But the humans did. The fortress fired, and the sky burned. The fleet awakens. The fortress fired. A second sun was born above Carrion. The beam of death roared across space, burning brighter than anything the survivors had ever seen. The ground shook. Towers crumbled further, and even the air itself seemed to tremble. The human ship stood at the center of it. For a heartbeat, it vanished inside the storm. The survivors gasped, believing hope had died as quickly as it came. But when the light faded, the ship was still there. Its shields glowed white-hot, scarred but holding. On the ground, Saren's eyes widened. They survived. The survivors cheered, voices breaking with joy. But above, the enemy commander was pale. His voice shook as he whispered, "Impossible. No one survives the fortress." The sky opens before he could recover. The ripples began again. Space tore wide, not once, not twice, but dozens of times. From each tier came more ships, sleek destroyers, massive carriers, armored cruisers. Their engines blazed blue, their hulls shining with the mark of Earth. In moments, the single human vessel was no longer alone. It stood at the front of an entire armada. The fleet stretched across the stars, a wall of firepower so vast it blocked the enemy's view of Carrion. The human commander's voice returned, calm and unshaken. "This world is under our protection." For the first time, the galaxy's greatest hunters felt like prey. The first clash. The enemy commander roared, "All ships, attack, crush them." Thousands of enemy vessels surged forward. Fighters swarmed. Like insects, bombers dove in screaming arcs. Cruisers charged their weapons. The humans answered with silence until their fleet lit up as one. Missiles streaked across the void, splitting into 100 fiery trails. Cannons thundered, their blasts shaking the black of space. Enemy ships fell by the dozens, their wreckage burning like falling stars. Survivors on the ground watched in awe. The night sky became a battlefield of fire and shadows. For every enemy ship destroyed, another came forward, but the humans did not falter. "They fight for us," Illyra whispered, tears streaming down her face. For strangers, the enemy's weapon, but the enemy still had the fortress. Its core blazed brighter, building power for another devastating strike. This time, the target was not the human ship, but the planet itself. The commander's lips curled. "If we cannot break them, we will burn the world they protect." The fortress aimed. A beam strong enough to crack the planet's crust began to charge. The survivors felt the air grow hot, as if the sun itself had dropped closer. Panic spread. Some prayed. Others held each other in silence. Saren clutched the glowing device in his hands, though it no longer worked. "Please," he whispered. "Please stop them." Humanity answers above. The human fleet moved as one. Cruisers shifted position. Carriers deployed swarms of fighters, and the flagship pushed forward like a spear. The human commander's voice filled the comms again, strong and clear. "Target the fortress. All firepower, now." The fleet obeyed. Beams of energy, railgun slugs, and swarms of missiles smashed into the fortress's shields. Explosions rippled across its surface, tearing open its armor. But still, the core kept charging. The enemy commander laughed through clenched teeth. "You cannot stop it, nothing can." Sacrifice in the stars. The fortress fired. The beam tore forward, but it never reached Carrion. Human destroyers hurled themselves into its path, shields flaring, hulls shattering. One by one, they exploded in silence, their sacrifice breaking the beam apart. The survivors cried out in shock. Dozens of human lives had been lost to save strangers they had never met. Illyra covered her mouth, shaking. They give everything for us." Saren's small hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "This is why they came. To keep the promise." The turning tide. The fortress reeled from the counterattack. Its shields flickered, weakened from the humans' relentless fire. The flagship pushed closer, its guns glowing white-hot. Fighters swarmed around it, dodging enemy blasts, carving paths through the chaos. Enemy ships broke formation. Fear spread through their ranks. For every human vessel that fell, 3 of theirs burned. The commander's officers looked at him with dread. "Sir, their fleet is too strong. We cannot—" "Silence!" he roared. But inside, fear gnawed at him. The humans were not only fighting, they were winning. The survivors' hope on the ground, the survivors gathered in the ruins watching the battle above. For the first time in years, they lifted their heads high. Children pointed at the human ships, cheering as they destroyed enemy cruisers. Mothers held their little ones, whispering, "We are safe." Elira stood tall, her voice strong. You see? This is what it means to keep a promise. This is what it means to be human." Saren's eyes shone with tears. He whispered the word like a prayer. Earth. The cliffhanger, the battle raged, fire and steel clashing in the heavens. The humans pressed forward, their fleet unyielding, but the fortress still lived. Its core flickered weakly, but it was not destroyed. Deep within, its systems prepared one final attack, stronger, deadlier, meant to wipe out everything in a single stroke. The enemy commander bared his teeth in a grin of desperation. If we fall, they fall with us. On the ground, Saren felt the air shift. He looked up, eyes wide. The stars seemed to tremble again, not from the fortress, but from something else. A shadow darker than space itself loomed beyond the battlefield. Another human ship, larger than all the rest, and from it came a single message. Earth's greatest fleet is not yet here. The last stand. The battlefield above Carrion burned like a second sun. Human ships and enemy vessels clashed in storms of fire and steel. Explosions flashed, turning night into day. The fortress still lived. Its core glowed with deadly light, preparing for its strongest strike yet. Every survivor on the ground felt it. The air grew heavy, as though the planet itself waited for death. Saren stood among the ruins, staring at the sky. His voice was a whisper. They saved us once, but can they save us again? Elira, leaning on a broken staff, did not answer. Her eyes never left the heavens. The fortress rises. Inside the enemy command chamber, chaos ruled. Officers shouted warnings, reports of destroyed ships and failing systems, but the commander stood tall, rage in his eyes. They think they can defeat us. They think one fleet can destroy a fortress built to end worlds. His fist slammed, down. Charge the core, all power, one shot. We will erase both the humans and this cursed planet. The fortress obeyed. Energy gathered, brighter, hotter, until its very surface cracked under the strain. The human response on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the human admiral watched silently. His face was calm, but his voice was steel. Status of our fleet? He asked. Shields at 40%. Losses heavy. But the line holds, replied his officers. And the fortress? Charging for a final strike. The admiral nodded once. Then this battle ends now. His command spread across the fleet. All ships target the fortress. Protect the planet at any cost. The humans surged forward. Cruisers fired beams that tore through enemy ranks. Fighters dived into swarms of enemy bombers, sacrificing themselves to keep them away from Carrion. Destroyers unleashed missiles that carved burning scars across the fortress's surface. But the core still grew brighter. Sacrifice in the void. The fortress fired. A colossal beam roared toward the planet, enough to split continents. But before it could strike, 3 human battleships broke formation. They threw themselves into the path, shields flaring, hulls screaming. The survivors on the ground watched in silence as the ships vanished in explosions of light. The beam shattered, across their sacrifice, burning the sky but leaving the planet untouched. Saren fell to his knees. They gave their lives. For us. Elira's voice trembled. This is the promise of Earth. They do not abandon those who call. The plan, but... The fortress was not defeated. Its shields were cracked, but the core kept building power for another shot. The humans would not survive a second. On the flagship, the admiral stood. His eyes were sharp, his decision final. There is only one way. We must destroy the core. From within, his officers stiffened. That is a suicide run. The admiral's voice was steady. If the fortress fires again, billions will die. Better we fall than the galaxy. The crew saluted without hesitation. Humanity had not crossed the stars to run. The final charge. The flagship broke from the line. Its engines roared, pushing it straight toward the fortress. Enemy ships swarmed to block it, but the fleet opened a path with fire and steel. Cruisers dove in front of the flagship, taking hits meant for it. Fighters tore through enemy lines, exploding themselves to clear the way. Every ship moved with one purpose: protect the flagship until the end. The enemy commander's eyes widened in horror. "They mean to ram the core," he screamed. "Stop them, stop them." But nothing stopped the humans. On the ground, the survivors watched in silence, every breath caught in their throats. Saren's heart pounded. They're going to crash into it. They're going to die. Elira knelt beside him. Her voice was soft but fierce. "They die so we may live. Remember this, boy. Remember what humans are." The fortress glowed like a sun ready to explode. The flagship sped closer, shields burning away, armor melting. The last stand. On the bridge, the admiral stood tall. His crew did not tremble. Together, they looked into the heart of the enemy's greatest weapon. "Today," he said quietly, "we remind the galaxy what it means to be human." The flagship plunged into the fortress. For a single heartbeat, the stars went silent. Then the core erupted. The explosion consumed the fortress in a storm of fire. Enemy ships shattered, caught in the shock wave. The ground trembled as the sky became brighter than 1,000 suns. The survivors shielded their eyes, praying, weeping, waiting. The cliffhanger: when the light faded, the fortress was gone. Only debris floated in silence. But so too was the human flagship. The survivors cried, some in joy, some in grief. They had been saved, but at a cost. Saren's small voice broke the silence. Did they all die?" Elira closed her eyes, tears streaking down her face. "Perhaps, but their sacrifice gave us life." The survivors looked to the sky. The human fleet still stood, battered but unbroken. Yet the enemy had not vanished. Scattered warships regrouped in the distance, fueled by rage. And in the silence of space, a new signal echoed. From far beyond the battlefield, deeper than the stars, came a voice. "Earth's fleet is only the beginning. We are coming." The survivors gasped. The battle was not over. The war was just beginning. The dawn of hope. The fortress was gone. Its fiery wreckage drifted across the stars, glowing like dying embers. The human flagship had sacrificed itself to end the weapon that could destroy worlds. On Carrion, the survivors watched in silence. Their hearts were torn between joy and grief. They were alive, but the humans who saved them had fallen. Children cried softly. Elders bowed their heads. Some whispered prayers of thanks, while others wept for the warriors who gave their lives. Saren stood among the ruins, his small hands clenched tight. His eyes searched the heavens. "They can't be gone," he whispered. "They can't." Elira placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Their sacrifice saved us. That is what matters." But Saren shook his head. His young voice carried something stronger than despair: belief. "No, this isn't the end. The enemy regroups in the distance. Enemy ships regrouped. Though broken, though scattered, they were not defeated. The enemy commander still lived, his face twisted with rage. So the humans destroyed the fortress. Let them have their moment. We still outnumber them. We will drown them in fire." He raised his hand. "All forces, attack!" The scattered fleet roared forward, hungry for revenge. The human fleet stands, but the humans had not fallen into despair. The surviving ships reformed their line. Though battered, though scarred, they stood like iron. Their commanders spoke as one. Hold the wall. Protect the planet. For Earth, for the fallen, for the promise. There, cannons thundered once more. Fighters swarmed like arrows of light. Even without their flagship, they fought with fury, as if the spirits of the lost ships guided their hands. The enemy charged, but the humans did not yield. A new arrival. Then the stars shivered again. A shadow appeared beyond the battlefield, larger than all others. Slowly it emerged, a ship so vast it dwarfed even the fortress. Its hull gleamed silver, carrying the weight of Earth's forgotten power. It was not a single vessel, but the vanguard of another wave. Ripples opened behind it, spilling out more ships, fresh, unbroken, countless. The true heart of Earth's greatest fleet had arrived. Gasps filled the ruins of Carrion. Survivors fell to their knees, awed by the sight. Even the enemy commander froze, his rage turning to horror. No, this cannot be. They cannot have so many. But they did. Humanity Speaks. From the massive vessel came a single broadcast. The voice was calm, steady, filled with unshakable strength. This world called for help. We answered. Know this. Wherever the cry of the weak is heard, humanity will come. We will not abandon, we will not forget. The survivors wept. The enemy trembled. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, listening. The final battle. The enemy charged one last time, desperate and wild. But now the humans were not only defending, they were striking back. The sky became a storm of fire. Missiles split the darkness into rivers of flame. Railguns tore through enemy armor like paper. Fighters hunted bombers with ruthless precision. One by one, enemy ships exploded, their wreckage scattering like dust in the wind. The humans advanced unstoppable, unbreakable. On the ground, the survivors raised their voices in cheers. Their cries joined with the thunder of battle, as if their hope itself fueled the fleet above. Saren shouted at the sky, his voice raw but proud. Go, humans! Go! The enemy falls. The commander fought to the end, his flagship burning around him. His rage turned to despair as the humans closed in. They should not exist, he muttered. They should have been forgotten. But the humans were not forgotten. They had returned, stronger than ever, and his fleet was crushed beneath their fire. The last enemy ship exploded in silence. The battle was over. Aftermath. The survivors of Carrion poured into the ruins, staring at the sky where Earth's fleet stood victorious. Elira raised her voice, strong despite her wounds. Remember this day. Remember who saved us. Humanity kept the promise. The people wept, cheered, and prayed. Hope, long dead, now bloomed again. Above, the humans began to descend. Dropships landed among the ruins, their ramps opening to reveal figures in armor, tall, weary, but alive. For the first time, survivors stood face to face with the ones they had called myths. Humans stepped onto Carrion soil, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Saren ran forward. His eyes shone like stars as he whispered the word that carried across generations. Earth. The dawn of hope. A human captain knelt before the boy. His armor was scarred, his face tired, but his voice was warm. You called, he said softly, and we came. Saren's small voice trembled. Will you leave us again? The captain shook his head. Behind him, the vast fleet hovered in the sky, guardians of a broken world. No, humanity does not abandon its own. From this day forward, you are not alone. Tears filled the boy's eyes as he looked at the sky. No longer a place of fear, but of safety. The survivors of Carrion lifted their voices as one, their cries echoing into the heavens. Hope had returned. The galaxy had changed, and so began a new chapter, not just for Carrion, but for every world that lived in fear. Because now they knew, when the shadows closed in, when all seemed lost, there was one name that would always answer. Earth.